Hey MiniWarGamers, welcome to another episode of The Machine Shop with Ash. I am back after a break with my weekly show for war games and wargamers. This is my show where we talk about a topic, usually something that's on my mind, something that I've been talking about with you guys, either on my Facebook page or on YouTube or the comments somewhere. That sparked an idea, and I usually do a sort of discussion or lead a debate or give my opinion or editorialize a little bit about something to do with the world of wargaming and wargamers. So this week, you might know I'm back after taking about 10 days off because I had a kid. Another kid, actually, second kid. I got the whole set now. I had a little baby girl back in 2013, the day before Halloween, and I have a young boy now on Groundhog's Day. So he's born on Groundhog's Day, 9:17 a.m. Cash Royal John Barker entered the world. So the collector in me is really happy because that means that I've now got one of each. I've got a boy and a girl. And that's kind of got my brain going on the topic of being a wargamer and being a parent. It's actually something that I've heard Matt get asked a lot about in his sit-and talks, and you guys have asked me a whole bunch about as well in my A Piece of Ash episode, which is my sit-and talk show that I do on my own YouTube channel, as well as just in the comments and stuff. So talking about having kids and kind of being a kid. So that's what we're going to talk about today, wargaming with kids, and how does that work. Now obviously, both my kids are really young. My oldest one is like a year, 15 months, year and change, year and a quarter. And my current one, my newest one is 10 days old. Yeah, it's the 12th, 10 days old. So this is not going to apply to trying to get your kids into wargaming or trying to like, you know, involve them in your hobbies and stuff like that. I'm not there yet. Maybe someday I will do a show about that years from now. But right now it's more about being a wargamer and then all of a sudden having kids introduced into your life. So I do have a bit of experience about that. I thought that'd be an interesting topic to explore. So let's talk about that today. Wargaming, being a new parent, wargaming, and having kids. So let's start off talking about, I guess, the transition. I think that's an important thing to talk about. When you first have a kid, something that I've noticed is you get a whole lot of unsolicited advice. And I'm not really good with that. I don't I don't listen well. And so what would happen is I would get advice and I would usually deflect the advice by making a joke or being Ash. I would crank the Ash up to 11 and basically make the advice or the discussion trying to go away. You know, making outrageous claims like, well, I'm not going to be involved in raising the kid. What are you talking about? Or whatever that would just make the conversation end. So I didn't have to talk about it. But I did get some parenting advice at one point that really stuck with me. One of my old bosses, she was talking to me as my wife and I are getting ready to have the baby about her experience having a kid for the first time. And the one thing that she prefaced it by saying, I don't often give advice to people having kids because everybody's life's different and you know, you're all going to adapt to having a kid differently. But the one bit of advice I will give, one thing that worked for me that I got that I'll pass on, it's only one thing, so if you only hear one thing, hear this, is that the way that I think I did best raising my kid was I didn't try and change my life around having a kid. Instead, I included my kid in my life. And it's almost an attitude thing. It's a perception thing. I think that's really, really true because I heard that bit of advice and ran with it. And so far, I mean, we're almost 2 years into my first kid. It has been the best decision I think my wife and I have made, is that instead of trying to wrap our lives around this new thing that's happened, right? Staying home, making every minute of your day about that baby that's entered the world, that new part of your family that's added to your life. Instead, what we tried to do was we just tried to keep our lives as they were before, as close to normal as they were, but include the baby in it. So if we wanted to go somewhere and do something, we just took the baby along. And the big benefit of that has been that our baby's our baby adapted to us being its parents, and that's normal. So we still go out and have dinner in restaurants, go to the mall. Like we didn't stop moving. We didn't slow down and just hibernate and instantly stop being ourselves. We just became ourselves plus this little person that was fascinated by what we're doing and you know, came along with us. So how does that apply to wargaming? Well, I think it could have been really easy for me, you know, 3 a.m. when my daughter's teething, or, you know, 2 o'clock in the morning when she was first born, I was feeding her, or, you know, last night as my son was waking up. Actually, I had to wake him up last night because he sleeps like a champion. I woke him up at like 5 o'clock in the morning so I could feed him because apparently he just wants to sleep through the night. I know all the other parents out there are hating me right now, but I don't know. I got magic babies. It's really easy to just make all your time be about that. What I do with my daughter late at night is if she couldn't sleep or if she was having a hard time sleeping, I would just hang out with her. Because mostly I found when you have a new baby, you're a new parent, your kid just wants you to spend time with them. They don't want to be alone. So they want to be held, they want to do X or Y. And that can seem restrictive, but what I ended up doing a lot with my daughter was painting. Like I would just hang out, she'd sit on my knee, or she would just sit like in her boppy on the couch with me, and I'd sit on the couch and I'd paint miniatures. And that was still something I was interested in doing. And so instead of like that time all of a sudden just being focused on or feel like it was wasted, it just became extra painting time, extra like productive time. She would hang out with me in her swing. She has like one of those little swing arm things. I would build miniatures. I would read rule books. You know, she'd fall asleep in my chest. I'd read rule books. My hobby didn't stop. And that was a really interesting, I don't think I really appreciated it at the time, but certainly now that I have my second child, it's a much more conscious thing, and I'm very aware of that advice and how I applied it to having my first kid, is that I didn't stop hobbying. I didn't make the assumption that I couldn't do those things anymore, because I still could. I just had to incorporate my daughter or my son into the hobbies I already had. And I don't think that's selfish. I think that's really, really healthy, because I found that myself, I was more even-keeled and I was getting more satisfaction because I was taking a break, or I was including my kids in taking a break. So there was none of this like sort of emotional upset that my life had been flipped all upside down. I just think I said a Fresh Prince line there, but that's okay. I haven't slept very much. Actually, I've slept fine. I've slept mostly okay, so I shouldn't really complain about sleeping. But yeah, so it just became them being included in the hobbies I already had. And obviously as they get bigger and they get more active, my daughter's, you know, running around right now, that becomes a little bit harder to do, but I'll still sit and read rule books. I'll check, you know, the internet and look at forum stuff. I will build miniatures with her around. You gotta be a bit careful because you don't want her to, you know, get a pair of side cutters or a hobby knife or something like that, because then you'll be in the hospital really quick. But all that time that they want to play with blocks or they're sitting there entertaining themselves can still just be hobby time for you if you make it hobby time. And I found it was really healthy for me. So my wife and I actually talked about it, and it became something that became really important to us, was that we still did the hobby things that we had. So for me, it was wargaming, building miniatures, painting, all that stuff. For her, it's her crafts and rowing and all this, you know, all these activities and hobbies that she has. And we made a point of, and this is, I think, the trick to making it really work, of making sure if the other one wanted to go do something, that I made that a priority to have happen, and she made it a priority to let me do that. And that was the second best decision that we could have possibly made. So I think that's the next thing, is that it takes it's a bit of a mental challenge, but you have to talk about it, and then you have to make it happen. So let's talk about that next. And that is, if you've made the decision that you're gonna keep doing all the things that make you happy, like wargaming and hobbying, and you're gonna spend time painting models, building models, and whatever, how do you do that? You know, use that time with the kids to do that, but also make it so that if there's something that you can't necessarily do with your kids, like you wanna go off and play in a tournament, or you wanna go and hang out with a buddy or have a buddy over to play a war game, that you can still make that time happen too. Because not everything that we do in the wargaming hobby is necessarily a thing that you can include the child in. So like, for instance, if I want to, I can probably play a miniature game while my daughter's hanging out with us, but that's not entirely fair to her, because not all my attention, I can't put it down the way I can put down painting a model or building a model and go spend time with her, or go spend time with my son. So you still need to have some kind of like free time too. I think that's the second half of this conversation, is how do you make it so that you, and to be fair also, you know, whoever your partner is, can have that free time as well. All right, so making it happen, making the actual hobby time happen, because I think this is important, and this is actually something I talked about in Gamer Burnout, making changes. It's something that's been on my mind too when thinking about how do you make time? How do you find the time to hobby? How do you find time to get stuff done? It's another question that people ask me all the time. I think it's a whole separate show, is how do you find the time, Ash, to get as much painted as you get? Or, you know, get the wargaming done that you've done. And it helps, obviously, that my job is about wargaming, but I still get a ton of stuff done on my own time. And I think that there's a trick there too. But let's talk about that in another show. When you have kids, if you have small children and you've made that transition to being a person that could have a hobby basically whenever they wanted and go do whatever they wanted whenever they wanted, to being somebody who has responsibilities, small children, these things that are, you know, they're part of your life now. We talked in the first half about this idea of including them in what you do. And I think for about 80% of the hobby, and I'm gonna say 80% of the hobby, despite what people out there on the internet might believe, that the whole hobby is about playing games, you do not spend the entirety of your hobby playing. You spend way more time thinking about the army, writing army lists, tinkering, being on the internet, building miniatures, painting miniatures, than you will ever, you combine all the hours playing games together, it will never add up to the time you spend doing other stuff. ever. So I'm gonna say you spend 80% of the time doing stuff you can just include your kid in. You know what I mean? Like, it is not something you can't just put down and pay attention to them if they need you for a second, and that they can still feel included in doing. My daughter loves playing with blocks while I paint, or write army lists, or cruise the internet looking at forums about wargaming. She loves anytime she can be with me. She loves sitting in my lap and, you know, watching me paint miniatures or look at the books I'm looking at or whatever. And with my son, he just wants company. I mean, he's 10 days old, right? He's sitting in the swing. He just wants somebody to put his pacifier back in and hang out with him and talk to him. So I can do that while I paint miniatures or build miniatures. It's super easy. But the other part, the playing the games, finding the time to do that, now that's a challenge. And I think that that's something that you will have to get good at consciously doing. Because for a lot of people, that's the reward and that's the payoff, and they don't feel like they're wargaming unless they're getting to do that. So when you have small kids, when you make that change in your life, that can be like the most abrupt, like grind to a halt thing. So what I did, because my wife and I had a very good discussion about it, and we talked about this philosophy we had of including our kids and stuff, because there's lots of stuff we go out and do. Like, I love hiking and backpacking. I love traveling. I have tons of friends that I've done that with in the past, and I love going out with them and spending a weekend, you know, climbing mountains somewhere. And my wife understands that that's something that's important to me, and it's good for me. It's good for me mentally. And likewise, I understand that it's good for her mentally to be able to go and do the crafting stuff she wants to do, hang out with her mom, go rowing, you know, like be on a team and get out and have grown-up time. And so when we made that conscious decision that we were going to keep including our kids and stuff, we also made the conscious decision that we were going to make the time for each other to be able to go and do the other stuff that we wanted to do. So for me, it's things like wargaming. So I'm doing work for my own YouTube channel. I'm making some videos in my own time. That's only happening because my wife said, I really want to be able to support you in doing this, and I think the best way I can support you is by giving you, you know, a couple hours every Sunday where you can have somebody over and film playing a game. You can play a game, first of all, in your own time, and you can have somebody over and make it for your YouTube channel. I want to support you, and I think that's good for you, so I'm going to do that. And likewise, I said the same thing about her joining rowing teams and going rowing. I'll watch the kids, I'll take care of the kids. I want you to be able to go once a week and go row, right? So that's the second thing. I think that one of the best things you can do to support each other when you have young kids and you have a hobby or something that's, you know, a pastime that you do and you don't want to give it up, if you want to be able to do the thing you want to do, you can look at it from a selfish point of view like this. If you want to be able to do the thing you want to do, you should commit to helping the other person be able to do the thing they want to do, because that's going to pay off in the long run. You're going to be happier, your partner, your significant other is going to be happier, and you're going to both be able, you both feel like you still have the freedom to go and do those things. And most importantly, it's super healthy for your brain. Hobbies are like emotional release, right? Or not emotional release, subconscious release. They're a mundane task that occupies the forebrain so that the hindbrain can process all the junk and clutter that's back there, and make you you know, defragmented. If you look at it from computing terms, it's you defragmenting your hard drive. Doing a hobby, having something that's a thing that you like to do that occupies your forebrain, lets you decompress at the end of the day. People do it with reading, people do it with playing video games. Like, any kind of hobby allows you to do that stuff. It's time where you decompress and you take the day-to-day stuff that's on your mind and you let it go. So that's my advice. And if I'm to end this new parents or, you know, wargaming and having kids for the first time discussion, or being a young parent discussion, I think that that's my biggest piece of advice. So the first half is, don't change your life. Include your kids in what you do and your hobbies. And if it's wargaming, that's wargaming. And the second half is, for the stuff that you can't necessarily include your kids in, the best way to get to do it is make sure that the person you're supporting, whoever your partner is, and obviously this doesn't necessarily apply to single parents, but it could apply to, you you know, single parents who have someone who supports them, like a grandparent or a parent or whatever that helps them out, help them do the thing they want to do so they don't feel like they're always obligated and that they can't have the freedom to go off and have a hobby still. It's worked for me. I'm doing good so far. I'm, you know, a year and a quarter into my daughter and 10 days into having a son. I haven't lost my mind. I'm still wargaming. My unpainted miniature pile is slightly smaller than it, well, actually, I don't even know if that's true. I still have so many unpainted miniatures, it's ridiculous, but I still painted a ton of miniatures. I mean, you guys saw my 2014 score for painting miniatures was pretty good. I was getting close to 200 painted overall. I'm hoping to beat 200 this year if I can. I've already surpassed, I think, maybe not quite surpassed, but I'm getting close to having played the amount of fun time games that I played last year overall, which I think is super important. My wife's gonna row again this year, and she's starting a little Etsy store for crafty stuff that she's gonna do and making baby clothes and stuff. I think that we're both well on our way to doing what we want to do. So it's working for us. I don't know if it'll work for you. Caveat emptor, buyer beware. But like I said, this is just my advice on making it work. You guys asked, there it is, there's my story. So that's it for this episode of The Machine Shop, talking about being a new parent and incorporating wargaming into it. So let's check out what's on the painting table, what I've been working on, and what's gotten done. All right, so here's the beginning of my on the painting table for this week. I've been busy. Obviously, I've had 2 weeks now, so if I didn't show you something painted, like, you guys would have every right to heckle me on the internet and tell me how terrible I am. So for the end of the War Machine League Season 4, it'll be wrapping up pretty soon. I finished Broadsides Bart. There he is, with his cool base. I realized he's supposed to be wearing a hat. I have no idea where the hat is. So my Bart is hatless. Luckily, they sculpted hair under there so you could leave the hat off. And that means that, yeah, my Bart's not wearing a hat. I think it looks kind of cool without a hat, actually. I did him as kind of a grizzled, old-looking dude with, like, the flamey armor again, some reds. So he's a little bit brighter, I think, than the rest of my Mercasters, but I think that's cool. And again, nice gold, sort of like meat and potatoes, War Machine level paint job. And then his 2 mules. I played a game with them so far. These are old metal mules, and if you stick them up against the new mule, man, they are huge. Like, they are so big, it's ridiculous. But there they are, once again, done up in my black and sort of bronzy gold color that all my other Merc Jacks are in. I'm doing all the Merc Jacks in the same color scheme, because I'm assuming that they're all part of Magnus's, like, I don't know, personal stable of War Jacks that he loans out to his buddies. So there they are. And now this is kind of a guilty admission. I couldn't get them done in time, so I did, these are real War Machine level paint jobs. I basically base coated and washed the rest of my solos for the list that I needed, and then based them. So this was enough to get them, I guess, on table, like most players would consider these finished. I don't consider them finished. I consider them base coated and washed. So it's Dirty Mag, Dougal McNeil, and the Ragman. So there'll be more painting on these. I promise I will bring them back and show them to you again when they're properly finished. But I need to get them done for the game, for the last games in the league. Just so people get to 9 games and get them done. So I got them sort of like smashed through in a night and ready for the table so that I could film with them. And last but not least, I built my Tohas. Here's the rest of my Toha. I got a bunch more McCall warband guys with boarding shotguns and flamethrowers and viral weapons. I got the rest of my Camille specialists. So this is a sniper, a defensive hacker over here with the crazy hackbot thing. That's the Spitfire. Yeah, it's a Spitfire, and then a light grenade launcher. I have 3 Coattail mobile troops. The guy in the middle is actually the Spec Ops guy, but he's dressed exactly like the Coattail mobile troops. So I'm using him as a Coattail as well with a combi rifle. They're cool because they have super jump. One's got a just a combi rifle. He's the forward observer guy in the middle. The other one's got 2 combi rifles, which gives him +1 burst, and the guy on the left has a Spitfire. And I got the Gorgos. I'm not sure if I'll ever use it because it's just weird. Its rules are make it very. It's not. It's a tag, but it's not a tag. So it's a symbiont tag, which is weird. Makes it vulnerable to flamethrowers and stuff. And it's got its Chaxa peripheral. So I'm sure I'll try it in some games. I don't know if it fits into my army list or if I want to play with it a huge amount. But he is such a cool model. I can't not paint him. And then we've got my 2 Sakio Regiment. These are the Simian Armor line troops that have the sort of like... They're kind of 2 wound line troops because they have Simian Armor. Their Simian Armor goes inactive, they take a wound. But they're impetuous because they're, I don't know, crazy and they have mohawks and stuff. So I'm going to get them done. There's one there with a Spitfire, I believe, and the other one's just got a viral combi rifle. So they're pretty cool models. And then a Gal Rail Sniper. I really want a second one of these so I can link them and have like a cool link trident of guys with sniper rifles. But for now, I just got the one. So I do want to expand my Toho on N3. They're my alien army, and I had a lot of fun painting with them so far. But I kind of want to actually repaint the whole thing. I may repaint my N2 Toho and do the whole thing. So I've just base coated them, or sorry, not base coated them, primed them and then zenithal highlighted them here, just so I can go back and add some colors. I kind of want to do them like in some wild colors. So the other one's in black and white, and they're a little boring, so I may go and repaint the whole thing and just pound a list out of repainted miniatures and reprime the whole thing. So we'll see what happens there, but they're assembled at least, and for me with Infinity miniatures, that's like half the battle, is getting them built, because man, it's finicky to build them sometimes. All right, thanks for watching, guys. I hope you enjoyed this last machine shop. Not last machine shop, but most recent machine shop, where I talked about being a new parent and incorporating wargaming and new parenting together. Some things that have worked for me and helped me to, I don't know, keep wargaming, keep painting, keep sane, which are 3 very important things in my life, and hopefully help you too. If you want to talk to me about it, hit me up in the comments. Most likely place to see them is to reply to one of my comments. I post under Girl Miniature Games. It's my YouTube channel and my Google account. So if you reply to that, I will certainly see it on my machine shop videos. That's where you can give me ideas and we can start discussing what my next machine shop might be, or things you would like to hear talked about or discussed. You can also ask me questions on my monthly show, which is a piece of ash. You can go to SurveyMonkey. There's usually a link on my Facebook page to chat with me about it. You can chat with me there too on Facebook. That's facebook.com/outofthebasement into the streets. So we'll see you for another machine shop. We'll chat with you online about the topics and discussions that might come out of this. Until then, happy wargaming.